So I just wanted to provide a brief introduction as to what this series is and why we're doing it. So this is actually a joint venture between 3 different managed service providers, 3 different IT companies from different geographical regions throughout the country. Of course, we're in Florida, Mike and Aaron in Buffalo, and Shane in Dallas, Texas. So we realize we provide a lot of recommendations for our clients. One of those recommendations is Office 365, of course, security, all these other factors. But on a daily basis, our clients don't get really a lot of training on those products. We implement it, we provide the initial training, and then we hope they do their best. So this is an effort to ensure we provide that continual training and extra value to our clients, of course, at no additional cost. So this first one was actually because we sent out a survey to our customers and said, hey, what do you want to learn about? Because we don't want to just tell you what we think you need to learn about. What do you want to learn about? And Microsoft Teams was the first on the list. So that's why we wanted to go ahead and do this one first. At the end of this, I'll also explain some of the other upcoming webinars that are coming up that I'm very, very excited about. But this one on Microsoft Teams, most people on this call may already have Microsoft Teams or access to Microsoft Teams, but they may not be using it. So this is going to show you how to use Microsoft Teams effectively and exactly how to use it. So with that, I'm going to introduce our presenter today. Tom Robbins has been in IT for over 20 years. He's got his bachelor's in computer science. He's been a consultant for Microsoft 365, SharePoint, and Microsoft in general for many, many years. So Tom, we're super excited to have you here today, and thank you for doing this. And I'll be passing it over to you to start presenting.
Awesome, great, thanks. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks to here for that. So let me see if I can figure out first how to work Teams and share my screen. There we go. All right. So hopefully everyone can see an example of Teams up on my screen. I'm also gonna close down the video and everything on my other display so that the video and things don't block my screen. So I think the purpose of today is to give you as much as we can squeeze into the 45 minute session about Teams. Literally, we could talk for a day or two probably about Teams and all the powerful features that it has now. First thing I want to talk about is what is Teams. So my take on Teams is it's sort of the evolution of how we communicate and collaborate. You know, we're all familiar with Outlook. Outlook is the email-based communication tool, and you know it's loaded with all the features that it has. Well, Teams is sort of the evolution of that. And we're seeing that all over the world. You know, people don't communicate by email that much anymore. You know, if you got kids, they're using chat and Snapchat and Instagram and all that stuff. So Teams is sort of the evolution of where we're going when it comes to communication and collaboration. But it basically allows organizations to stay connected and organized through chat instead of email, allows us to have meetings, allows us to have telephone calls, and it combines all these different collaboration tools, which are extensible, which means we can continue to add to the functionality of Teams, Microsoft Teams, just like we do a smartphone. You can add apps to your smartphone all day long. Well, Teams has that same functionality. So we'll look at that as well and look at all the options you know, available to that. But it basically allows us to have a central place, our dashboard, if you want to say, where we keep in touch with everybody. And keep in mind, it's chat based instead of email based. So Teams is an app for your desktop. So it's installed on your desktop. You can also access it through the browser. So teams.microsoft.com in your browser will get you there. That's not a fully functional app though. That only gives you, you know, some limited features. But you just double click on Teams or go to your tray to get to Teams. When Teams opens up, you've got a number of modules on the left controlled by your company. But right away you'll see the activity feed. Okay, and this is where you'll see all the different notifications that you set to be notified about. Those notifications, I'll show you right away, can be found under settings. Just keep in mind, everyone, there are so many options here. I'm just going to pick the most important things to show you for now. For example, you want to know how to control what's in the feed, the notification feed on the left. You'll go to your settings under notifications. You can see all activity, just mentions and replies, or you can customize everything. And of course, clicking on edit beside each of these major modules, the chat, meetings, people, and other, this allows you to control what's feeding in to that activity feed. You know, you get emails too. I turn this off. I just know to come to Teams on a regular basis and check my activity. I don't want to keep getting emails as well. Emails sort of the old legacy technology. Okay, so this is your activity feed, and of course you can click on each of the items in the activity feed to learn more about them. Teams, for some of you who may be wondering, I'm not sure how many of you may still have maybe Skype for Business on premise or try to transition to Skype. It's the replacement for Skype for Business. So that'll sort of help you understand what it provides for you. It gives you everything Skype for Business had, plus much, much, much more. So I just want to go down and look at the modules. Again, I'm going to give you a quick overview of some of the modules. The chat module is sort of like your inbox in your email. It's where you'll find conversations you're having with individuals. It's where you'll instant message your teammates. Think of it like the email, but you don't have to do a subject and a send and you don't have to do all the, salutations and all that stuff you did in email. You simply come here, click on the icon, type someone's name in. Let's say I want to chat with Grady. Good morning, Grady. And you guys are all familiar with how chat works. It's very similar to all of the social platforms. Of course, you have all the tools down here to format your text. You can make it mark your messages important. You can attach files. All the emojis and GIFs and pics and all that kind of stuff is all available to you. But one of the most important things about this, which you don't really have in email, is the ability to customize this chat. Let's say I want to share a file with Grady. I can upload it from my computer, get it from OneDrive. I'll just pick a project plan. Now this file, give it a second to upload. Now this file is available to Grady and I to work on, to collaborate on, to talk about. We can edit it together. I can even click on the Files tab up here, and it keeps a directory of all the files that Grady and I are chatting about. So it makes it really nice to have one place where Grady and I can have a conversation, share files, and we'll talk later about the tab at the top here, but I can even customize this conversation. So it's like my own private place to engage with Grady. Now that's not the kind of thing you had in Outlook. You have to attach something from the F drive. You guys all know how that works. But I can continue to have a conversation. One of the big things about the chat module, as well as everything else you'll find in Teams, is that everything is integrated. So if you think you want to do something right now, like have a video conference or share your screen with Grady or make a phone call, it's all right there. It's all integrated. I don't have to jump out into another app like Zoom or WebEx. I don't have to do any of that. Right up here at the top, I can make a phone call. This is an audio call to Grady, or I can share my screen with Grady. Now, just one little disclaimer. I'm doing this Teams demo for you from a virtual machine, so it doesn't have hardware, so it doesn't have cameras and stuff. So, I can try to place an audio call. I don't have speakers on my computer, and Grady has it set right now to forward me to voicemail. So I'm actually getting his voicemail because he's not available. My point is, look at how easy it was to make a phone call with Grady right here from within the chat module. I could share my desktop too. Could quickly, start up a conversation and share my desktop with Grady as well. Now, let's say Grady and I are talking. We decide that this conversation's become important and I need to drag someone else in. I can simply add a participant, like I like typing A and picking whoever comes up with the A's. I can go ahead and add Alan to this conversation. And now I'm having a new conversation. Notice over here on the left. So anyway, that's the chat module. Again, we could spend a couple of hours on most all of these. I just want to pick out the most important topics of each thing for you as we go along. The other modules on the left, I want to skip Teams for now and just jump down to Calendar. So the calendar is obviously your calendar. It's Outlook and Exchange connected, or Office 365 connected. So you do see your personal calendar here. People always say, well, Tom, where are the filters? I don't want to see, I just want to see my calendar. I just want to see, I want to color the events, a lot of things like that. You'll still go back to Outlook for that, but this is an aggregation of your personal calendar as well as team calendars. So some of these events down here, you notice the icon in the bottom right-hand corner. This tells me that this is a calendar from within one of my teams, and I'll talk more about that later. But that's pretty much it. From here, the things I want to point out to you are the ability to meet right away. Let's say this is my favorite thing, because someone may say, hey, Tom, can we just meet really quick? And I'm like, oh gosh, do I need to create a new meeting in the calendar, set it up, send you an invite? I just want to do a meeting. So I can click Meet now. That starts up the meeting, and from there I can add my participants. Go ahead and join the meeting. Add my participants over here on the left-hand side. I can start inviting people to my meeting. So that's really nice, and we'll talk about all the options within a meeting in a moment. But from the calendar, you can really quickly start up a new meeting. You can also schedule a meeting from here. Very similar to Outlook. Just think, when you're in the calendar in Teams, the same kind of functionality that you have when you're in an Outlook calendar, as far as meetings go. So you can schedule meetings from here. Let's say my first meeting in Teams. I can add my attendees. Let's add Alex. I can make them optional.
Do I not need to go, if this is going to be something that we would use, would you not go to Redtail then? Dad and I talked about yesterday still.
Hey guys, just want to remind you, make sure you're muting your phone. We're getting feedback of ongoing conversations in the background. Just want to make sure everybody hears me, because I'm the center of attention. We can also add channels. We'll talk more about that later. You can add locations. So if you have locations and buildings and things like that set up, I don't know that I have any. Let's see what I have. Oh yeah, I do. Let's say I have a location. We're going to actually have a physical location, Conference Room Crystal. I can add my meeting notes here. It's that simple. You can also use a scheduling assistant like you're used to using in Outlook to see what people's availability is and have the scheduling assistant pick a time, those kinds of things. Very similar to what you have in Outlook. It's really that simple to schedule a new meeting. And I scheduled it at the same time as my webinar, so I probably would want to go ahead and change that. All you got to do is click on the meeting. You can edit it. Pretty much same things you can do in Outlook. One of the really cool features is attaching a meeting to a team channel. Now, the reason I'd want to attach a meeting to a team channel is going to become really evident later, but I want to make sure people have the ability to know the meeting's occurring and to join the meeting, even if I forgot to invite them. But I want to talk about that in just a moment when we actually talk about building the teams and the team conversation. So far, we're only talking about chat and calendar. So I'll come back to you in just a minute on that. So most of you know how to join a meeting. You can join from your calendar. So if you're invited, it's just like Outlook. If somebody invites you, just go to your calendar, open the meeting, join the meeting. You can also join a meeting from the app. Come in here into Teams to join the meeting, Outlook, Teams. If someone sends you the link, you can click on the link in the browser, all those different ways to join meetings. Microsoft's goal is that you don't have to think too much. And I've heard some people say that's really annoying because you get pop-ups all over the place telling you what's happening. You're like, I know I have a meeting. But it's pretty obvious in most cases how you can join these meetings and things like that. One of the cool things that is sort of obvious now, or actually it's not obvious, it happens by default, it used to be that when we started a meeting, the window behind me here got replaced. It's sort of like it took us out of the calendar and we went right into the meeting. So what you're seeing here is what's called the new meeting experience. I don't know if everyone has that enabled yet. It's rolled out in update, so make sure you update Teams or get IT to update your Teams. But the new meeting experience basically opens a new floating window for your meeting. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It should have been there before, but you know, Teams is evolving. You can see if that's available or turn it on and turn it off under your settings. Notice here, turn on new meeting experience. If that's available, that allows you to have those floating windows pop up. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing that right now in your experience with joining this meeting, but that's a really cool new feature. Check with IT. If it's not available yet, make sure it gets rolled out so you can use that. In any kind of meeting, of course, you've got your meeting controls. I'll show you these things. They're obvious, but let me show them to you anyway. Let's say we join a meeting. We want to, to change the microphone we're using or change the video, or everybody wants to use those background options. Once you're in the meeting, you've got the toolbar up here across the top. Most of your tools are here under the ellipsis. Your device settings is where you change your microphone, your video, those types of things. Your background options, once you're in the meeting, let's see if I can get to one of the problems I'm going to have, and I can't really show it to you, is the background options are only available when you have a camera. Because this is a demo in a virtual machine, I don't have a camera. You guys should be able to, from this meeting right now, go to the ellipsis and you'll have the ability to change your background options. I'll show you that at the end when we have Q&A if any of you guys are still looking for it, but I don't want to switch my displays around too much and confuse you. A couple of meeting options here though. Obviously the device settings. Meeting options allows you to determine who can bypass the lobby, let people bypass the lobby, announce the callers, those kinds of things. A lot of options under here. Let me see if there's anything else. You can go full screen. You can turn on captions. That's interesting. It tries to close caption what people are saying. You can start the recording from here, turn off your incoming video, those kinds of things. Typical meeting options. We can show the participants. We can chat with the participants. We can raise our hand so that people know we have a question. That's my favorite, especially in a classroom setting. If we have 25 students in a classroom setting, did someone just raise their hand? If you have 25 students in a classroom setting, everybody asking questions at the same time can be crazy. So lower your hand, raise your hand is a really cool feature. Yeah, so those are pretty much your meeting options. Make sure you see record the meeting. That's here. Meeting chat, attendees panel. That's pretty much everything that's available to you in the meeting. And it's all pretty obvious. Just click around when you're in a meeting like some of you have just been doing and raising your hand. Let's see if there's anything else I want to talk about the calendar. I'm sure you guys are getting some questions together, so hold those until the end. One thing I do want to point out is the search. If you're looking for anything, you know how this is a Google world, and the Federal Trade Commission knows that. This is a Google world, so it's so easy for us to just Google and search for whatever we're looking for all throughout Office 365, including Teams. All you got to do is come up here to a search box if you're looking for anything. Let's say you're looking for a specific meeting. Type in legal and press enter to see the results. It should find this meeting over here on the right. Let's say you don't know what you're looking for. If you just type /, these are all the commands that you have available. So not only is this a search box, but it's also sort of like a DOS prompt where you can type commands and get help and do quick shortcuts. Let's say I want to files. I can just type /files and Teams will show me the recent files I've been working on. So I like to point that out because that's a really cool feature. Just type a / and it shows you all the commands you have available to you. I know some people that don't even click the buttons on the left. they just start typing / and going directly to the things they want to go to. So that's a really cool feature. All right, I want to make sure I give us plenty of time for Teams at the end. So I want to jump straight ahead to the calls module. So this is, for most of you, what you're familiar with Skype for Business. It's where you can set up your speed dial, add the cards or the business cards or the people you call frequently. All of your contacts are synced up here from Outlook. You can see the history of your calls. You can even check your voicemail from here. Make calls. It's obvious how to do these things. Click on the phone to call Grady. Click on the camera, which I don't have, to a video call with Grady. Okay, really nice features available here to you. I don't know that there's anything else I want to show you from here. I do have a voicemail from Alex. I could click on this and listen to Alex's voicemail. Okay, again, I don't have any speakers, but how nice was it that I got a translation? And translations are as good as they can be for now. It's about as good as it is on my Verizon phone, but this one looks pretty good. Okay. Let's see. I want to go ahead and jump into the Teams module, because this is really where you get the bang for your buck and the value out of Office 365 and all of the apps, especially Teams. Teams sort of was forced out into the world because of COVID, but you know, us IT guys have known about Teams for a long time and have been trying to get people to use it. It really is the evolution of how we collaborate and communicate with each other. So don't confuse a team in Microsoft Teams. Don't confuse those two. Microsoft Teams is the product. Inside Microsoft Teams, we create teams. So what is a team? This is really, really important. It's a collection of people within your organization, the content they're working on together, and all the tools that that team needs to work together on maybe projects like launching a new product, or creating like a digital project status room or something like that, or keeping a department up to date, working together ongoing. These teams, we create as many of these as we need within the organization. They can be private, like on the left here, you'll see I have Contoso Sales. That's obviously the sales department, so that's going to be private. IT is going to be private. But we can also have public teams where we invite external people, and we can have up to 10,000 members at the current time. We can have up to 10,000 members in these teams, but it's really designed so that you have a place to go. It's almost like, remember the good old days of intranets, which a lot of you still have? It's like having your own intranet site, or, promise nobody hangs up when I say this, your own Facebook page or your own Instagram page. But you invite the people. Oops, I heard some clicks. Don't hang up. It's like having your own personal page or your place for your team to go and engage with one another. So you'll have conversations, you'll share files, you'll have notes that you share with the team. And one of the cool features of this is that you can add functionality like adding these bots and adding surveys and adding, there's one called Karma that do kudos for your teams, but it gives us one place to work together. So I'm just going to click on a couple of these. So I've got this Mark 8 project team. I'll just play around with that one. Notice the Mark 8 project team. Whoops. It has a couple of things listed beneath it. These are called channels, and I'll talk about those in just a moment. But there are a lot of settings for each of these teams. So the very first, what we call channel beneath the team, it looks like a chat. Well, it is a chat. It's a chat with everyone in the team. It's like the whole team and all the members can chat with one another. We can share files with one another. We can start new conversations. All happens right here within the team. There's a lot of controls and settings within these, and I certainly can't go with all of them today, but take a look. Obviously, the settings to manage the team, things like the name, whether it's public or private, adding new members, leaving the team, editing the team, getting a link so that I can easily invite someone to join the team. Teams can have tags. Those are tags like, like tags in Twitter and Instagram that tell us sort of, what the team is all about, so we can use it in a search. So there's a lot of options here. What I want to do is show you how to create a new team. Let's say I'm going to call this new team. I'm going to click on this icon down here. You can just click on join or create team. I like to go directly to the settings because this shows me all of the teams I have, what my relationship is to the team, how many members there are in the team, what type of team it is, and then obviously all the different settings of this one. The I is whether or not I can see the team, whether it's hidden or not. A lot of options here, though. Let's just create a new team. I'm going to start from scratch, but teams can have templates so that they're already pre-built with certain functionality and certain tags and certain channel tabs, which we'll talk about in just a moment. I'm just going to create one from scratch so you guys can see how it works. I'm going to make this a private one, so I got to make sure you have permission to join. It could be public, or I could let everyone in the organization. I'm going to make this a private one. I'm going to call this my COVID response team, discussing how we respond to COVID. Click create. That quickly, I created a new team. Now, a lot of things happened in the background there for those geeks and gurus out there. A SharePoint site got created and a place to share files got created. All kinds of permissions got set up. A lot of stuff started happening there, but I just want to go ahead and start adding some members. I'll even type a B this C this time instead of typing A every time. That quickly, I can add new members and specify what their role will be. Are they going to be an owner along with myself, which gives them different rights, or are they going to simply be a member? Okay, that quickly, we've got a team, and where did it put it? There we are, COVID response. See it down here at the bottom? And notice something called general got created. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about next. But it looks just like a chat, like I showed you a moment ago with Isaiah. The chat I had going on with those guys. Have a place to share files. By default, it comes with a place for us to create a wiki, which is sort of like a knowledge base or lessons learned or procedure, sort of like Wikipedia on the internet. Comes with these three things right away, but we can go ahead and start having conversations. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the team. Okay, pretty straightforward. I'm going to talk more about some of the things we can do here in the chat window in just a moment. But for now, I'm just going to invite everyone to my team. And we love Microsoft. It gives us some help. We can add more people, create more channels. We can open an FAQ, which tells us what a team is all about. Fortunately, that scrolls away. Okay, so here's what I want to leave you with regards to what a team is. Don't forget, you create as many teams in Microsoft Teams as you have teams within the organization. Keep in mind, teams have teams. HR is a team. Maybe even that HR is a division. Within HR, we have, benefits team. We have Christmas holiday party planning team. We have onboarding team. We have executive salary team. We have insurance and medical benefits team. All those teams within HR. So this thing's really going to start to fill up. If there's a team, for example, that you don't want to see because you're not participating in that often, you can hide them. Okay. There's some filters up here as well that you can create so that you can filter out these teams, because it really gets pretty big. Okay, you can also drag teams that you use a lot up to the top. I'm going to drag the COVID response team to the top. Okay, that's what I want you to take away with what a team is. Now, within these teams, you'll notice general, deployment, management and governance, service strategy, support. All of these are what we call channels. Now, Microsoft terminology, a channel is sort of like a dedicated section within a team so that you can organize conversations within a topic, a project, a discipline, an initiative, whatever works. Here's the point. Imagine all of your team, let's say all of COVID response was discussing everything in the general channel. That really becomes a lot of conversations, a lot of file sharing. I don't know who's talking about what. I can't find conversations. What I can actually do is create a channel so that we can it's almost like a breakout, so that we can break out all the individual discussions and conversations within the COVID response team so that they're not all grouped together in one big bundle. You think about it this way, Facebook's like one big conversations and you scroll forever. I can't really group together stuff I'm talking about with my mom or stuff I'm talking about, with my climbing team or my CrossFit team. Everything's in one place. So these channels are places where conversations happen and where the work actually gets done. Channels can be open to all team members, or if you need a more select audience, they can be private. Okay, standard channels are for conversations that everyone in the team can participate in, and private channels limit communication to a subset of people. What really makes these channels powerful, let's say I need a new channel under the COVID response team called Work from Home. Okay, I'm going to make it standard so that everybody within the COVID response team can see the conversations. And I can even make sure this channel shows up in everyone's channel list so that they don't miss out on any activity. When I create this channel, you'll notice it gets its own tabs across the top. It gets its own file sharing. It gets its own wiki. And as we'll talk about in just a moment, it gets its own ability to extend the functionality of what this channel can do through channel tabs. But now I've got one unique place to have conversations just about work from home. Okay, and we can create as many channels as you want. And you may say, why do I need them? Again, keep in mind, if there were just one channel, let's say HR's got 50 people in it, and we only had the general channel, that's a lot of conversations going on for a lot of people in HR in the same place. So we create as many channels as we need. And there's options for each channel. Obviously, you can determine, you remember I showed you a moment ago where to set your notifications. But you can specify what types of activity you want to see up here under your activity feed. You can pin this channel to the top if it's one that you regularly participate in and it's important. Okay? You can manage the channel if you're an owner and you have the rights to do those things. So each channel has some options as well. But the most important part of these, which we'll talk about next, is all these channel apps across the top. Okay? I know you're generating some questions. I'm going to try to wrap up in the next few minutes so we can take some questions and dive a little bit deeper in the last few minutes that we have. Two more things I want to talk about before we leave. I mentioned channel apps a lot. This is really where the power for me of Microsoft Teams comes from. It's the ability to customize the tabs across the top here. Obviously, we click on posts, we can read the conversations. We click on files. Let me go back. Well, actually, we click on files. We can see any files shared with the work from home channel. And those files and those kinds of things. Each channel comes with a wiki. Okay, you may or may not want that. I'm just going to go ahead and remove it for now because I don't want a wiki. So I'm just going to remove that tab. But just like the App Store on your smartphone, look at all the functionality or tabs that we can add across the top here. Let's say I wanted to give everyone a Word document that's extremely important, and I want to display it as a tab. I could click on that Word document, go out to my computer, get that Word document, upload it to the channel. Let me go ahead and do that because I don't have any files in there. I want to show you how this works. Let me just upload some files really quickly. Grab a bunch of files. These are all files I'm sharing with my work from home channel within the COVID response team. And let's say one of these is extremely important. The business plan. Now, in a real world, this would be work from home policies, right? But I want to put a tab up here so everybody sees it right away. I'll just click plus, add a Word document, pick the business plan, notify people that I've created this tab. That's what this button down here does. Post to the channel about the tab, click save, and notice, just like you're a web designer, you're sort of like a web guru now. You're building your own intranet. You just added a tab up here at the top so people can quickly open that Word document. Now, notice there are a lot of apps here that you can add as a connector or as one of the tabs across the top. There's some really cool ones out here, obviously. One of my favorites is Karma. I don't know if it's actually in this demo one, but Karma is one that you can add, which allows you to give kudos to your team members. Maybe someone went out and took a training or attended a Teams webinar. You can give them a kudos. There's apps here that allow you to do surveys or do polls. Some of them are Microsoft sponsored. Obviously, these at the top are all Microsoft. Then some of these down here at the bottom are third party, like in the Apple Store. What you see here is dependent upon what your IT department has enabled. So again, we could spend hours talking about this, but you get the gist. I can customize for each channel the tabs across the top. Don't forget, that also works within individual chats too. The Alan and Grady chat. I mean, I can customize the things that we see across the top. That's really part of the power of Microsoft Teams. Okay. One last thing I want to talk about is permissions. I mentioned it really briefly, but permissions allow us to determine what people can do. You can get to the permissions from each channel or the entire team by just clicking on the ellipsis and change the role. And basically, if you're an owner, you can do everything. If you're a member, you can contribute. That means upload files, edit files, have conversations. Pretty straightforward. Those of you SharePoint people, it has a direct correlation to the permissions in SharePoint because the back end of Teams is using SharePoint. One more thing I want to cover, then we'll, I'm right at the 40-minute mark, which is where we're supposed to stop for questions. So give me 2 more minutes and then we'll take questions. I hear a bunch of dings going on in the background here. So I'll take you back to the moderator and we'll take some questions. The last thing that's sort of new to Teams is this idea of live events. It's what we've all been waiting for. Zoom does it, WebEx does it. We've been waiting to be able to broadcast to millions of people, whatever it is we want to broadcast. Everybody's doing that these days, right? So in Microsoft 365, live events is what it's called. If I go to the calendar, you'll notice live event here. It allows us to bring live video streaming up to a new level. It encourages people to get connected in our live events through chat. We get control over the entire engagement lifecycle with our attendees. Like before the meeting, I can send them things. During the meeting, I can send them, documents and polls. After the meeting, I can wrap up and send them follow-up. Basically, it allows us to manage an entire event. You see these all the time on the news now. Everybody does these. But Teams delivers the chat-based collaboration piece, and live events allows us to extend that out into large. It's just basically it's a team meeting for a lot of people, but it allows us to manage the life cycle of the entire thing, beginning, during, and after. Let's say I want to set up a live event. I'm going to call this my Teams webinar 2. We want more. I can set a location. If we're going to have a physical location, I can set a date and time. I'll just set this up for next Monday. Set a time, Eastern, and from here, I can actually use rich text, HTML, I can create a flyer. I can create images, pictures, whatever I want to invite people to the meeting. I can go ahead and invite my presenters. I know it's going to be Megan and Alan. I can invite certain people in groups within the organization. I can make it organizational wide, or in most cases, it's going to be public. Like in the example of this webinar, we could have used a live event and invite you all externally. My organization in this demo does not allow public, so that's why it's grayed out. Just keep in mind you can do that. Now, when it comes to producing, that's where I'm talking about the engagement life cycle, what we do with the attendees before, during, after the live events. We can record the event, make it available to the attendees. We can have an engagement report. We can have Q&A. I can even create a support link where people can get information about the event. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and schedule the event. And one last screen pops up. This is what the event's going to look like. Can get the link, can join the event. Resources will be available after the event. So these are things we share during the event, like the Q&A or the engagement report or documents. Those things become available to the attendees after the event. Notice the link looks a little different. It's a join live event instead of a Teams meeting. We get a phone number, whatever, based on your settings in your organization. And we can manage our resources. Again, we don't have any resources right now, but those resources are something that we can manage for the attendees after the meeting. Okay. Let's see. Let me see if I can join it. I promised I wouldn't go over, but see, I wanted to see if I could join the live event so you could sort of see how it looks a little bit different. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. Yes, I know I don't have a speaker or microphone. I know. But I can add content to the meeting. I can add video. I can share my screen. I get full control over all the attendees in the meeting. I can share documents. I can get the pulse, health or performance of the meeting. A lot of different options here. So this is a webinar all within itself, but we just wanted to make sure we brought this to your attention that this is available and rolling out, and it's available in Teams now. So, okay, I think that's all I wanted to cover. Apologize, I went 5 minutes over, so I'm going to jump back into the meeting and see if I can find you guys. I blocked you. Tahir, it's you.
Thank you, Tom. You know, I wasn't expecting to learn anything, but I learned a lot. Because, I mean, I already know a lot about Microsoft Teams.
Well,
but,
you know what? I'll tell you a secret.
Yeah.
I don't know everything, and it'll change tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's the big reason I wanted to do it, is because there have been so many updates through the pandemic. Like, one of the things is the / command. I had no idea that existed.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
So that's great. Speaking of those live events, that is actually what we're going to start doing in the future webinars, which will, before we wrap up, I'll tell you which ones those are. So it's going to actually be that live format rather than this. See, in this one, there was a lot of people talking. We had to mute people, ask people to mute. In the live event, it's going to be more of a presentation webinar style. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And I heard a lot of dings going on, and I really wanted to go hear what all the dings were. So that's one of the things that you have control over in the live meeting.
Yeah, so fewer distractions as well. And one other point too, when you look in the calendar of Teams, you can schedule Teams meetings there. But one thing I learned, actually from a customer taught me, is when you're in Outlook and you say, and you're scheduling a calendar invite, there's a Teams meeting button in Outlook, and you can click that button and it'll automatically schedule a Teams meeting rather than the regular meeting. So I use that all the time. So you don't even have to open up Microsoft Teams.
And I'm hoping it opens quickly while you're talking so I can show it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
There you go.
Yeah, Chelsea Nilsson, thank you. That was seriously awesome. So you can click right there, that little Teams meeting button. Boom. And that one has a phone number, mine don't. So I need to fix that for next time too. But anyway, so that was really great, Tom. Very, very thorough. And also what I'm going to be doing is taking that whole segment and breaking them into short little bits to send out to make it a little more digestible. Because I know 45 minutes is, for anybody, is a long time. But thank you for going that in deep. We really appreciate it. So at this point, we are going to move to some questions. I think that's one of the big No problem. So that's one of the big values of being on a live webinar rather than just watching a YouTube video is you can ask questions.
Sorry, I opened Google.
Yeah, no, right? So the value is like the actual most pertinent to what we're talking, anyway. So does anyone have any questions at this point? My assumption is yes, but
I do.
okay, go for it.
Hi, I'm Shelley.
Hi,
So
Shelley.
when you are looking in your chat, how is there any other way besides hiding a chat to make it unseen? My problem is that I have several that are 5 people long, 4 people long, whatever. And I just want to see the one person because I don't ever want to respond to one that I should.
Yeah. So
besides hiding it, how else do you do it? And then when you do hide it, how do you get it back?
So, gosh, you're not going to like this answer at all, along with the other 5 billion people on the planet. The one thing you can do in a group chat is give it a name. Okay, so you can click the edit button, and I don't have another group chat here. But in my group chat, if I click the edit button, I can give it a name. Okay, so if I added participants, let's say to Alex and I created a group chat here, our chat. Hold on, Bill. Let me add a person first. Well, it's probably because none of these people are available. There we go. Notice the pencil appeared. I can give it a name. Okay. Now, so that's one way to sort of group them together. You can also pin them, I think. So you can pin them up here under pinned.
I do hide, but I don't know how to get back to them then.
So you're not going to like this. The only way to get back to hidden stuff is to know some keyword or person from that conversation that you can type in the search box.
Okay, great. If I started, I wouldn't necessarily remember that, but okay.
You're exactly right. And Microsoft says, good luck with that. Put it in user voice.
So that would then be, you'd have to name everyone, no matter, you couldn't name one just.
Or just remember a person that was in it. That, just remember Alan, that you talked to Alan, and it'll find everything that has to do with Alan, and then you could unhide it.
Okay. And you are, I think I just heard, I came in late and I apologize, but I think I heard that you're going to send some cheat sheets or whatever out, or a video recording of this meeting.
Yes,
because I
we
missed
will.
the first 20 minutes. I couldn't get in, and it was not due to you guys.
I hope it wasn't due to Teams.
No, it was not.
You're going to have to call your IT team, right?
Actually, I called them. They said, everybody's in a meeting.
Yeah. I was wondering why my cell phone was ringing. Oh, just kidding.
Awesome. Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you,
Great
Shelley.
question. And I just brushed up on that before the call, so I'm glad you asked it.
All right, let's see other questions. I'm sure there's some questions.
The great thing about no questions, it was so thorough, there were no questions.
Yeah. Oh, Chelsea raised her hand. All right, someone's using the hand function.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
Hey guys, sorry I had to take my mute off. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm using our new headsets.
Oh, nice.
But my question is, what is the difference really? Because we've been using the Teams just regular meetings for Q&As. What's the difference with going live versus using the Teams meeting?
So think of it this way. If you are you're Ian Somerhalder and you want to talk about the new movie you're going to be in, you want to bring in 2 million people, you want to produce a live event like a big webinar, that's completely different than you meeting with the Contoso IT department. So the live meeting comes with all the tools to produce, like a television studio, to produce an event. So like Dave Matthews Band, they've been producing, they've been playing, their band's been doing stuff every week to raise money during COVID. Well, that's a production. They invite tens of thousands of people. They have content, video, documents, all that stuff. That's produced. So just think of it this way. If it's a production, instead of just a meeting you would have in a conference room, that's when you would use a live event.
Okay.
And I think Tahir was talking, we're going to do another webinar at some point where we talk specifically about live event because there's so much involved in it. It is a production. It's a production team basically to do one of those.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And we're going to be doing it next time. So it's also going to be my first time running a live meeting, so I hope nothing goes wrong, but it should be fine. So we'll see. And then I do see another question. How do you invite people outside your organization? We actually get this question all the time. Great question. So how do you invite people outside your organization to be within a Teams, is I'm assuming what the question is.
So all of that starts at the top in administration and IT. You have to be allowed to do that. And it could be that you're connected to a certain company or any company. You just have to know their email address. It's pretty much that simple. Most of those people will be Office 360 or Microsoft 365 users and have tenants, so it's pretty simple. So once your IT opens it up, all you need is your email address. It's pretty simple. Another way you can do it, you know what? I'm not a big user of this, but you can also generate a code that someone can type into their Microsoft Teams, and that code will join them. You can also send them an email link, things like that. It gets really complicated on the back end, but let me just make it easy. You just need to know their email address. On the back end, it's really complex for IT, but you just need their email address.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I can't do that here because my company and my demo doesn't let me add external people.
The other question was, do you need to back up Teams?
Great question.
Woo! Any of you Office 365 people want to answer that? So Microsoft promises that in its multi-billion-dollar data centers all over the world, that all of your stuff is safe and duplicated and replicated, and that you don't have to worry about backup. So if you're talking about chats and conversations, IT determines how long they're kept, what the archive is. If you're talking about files, all of the files that you work with in Teams are stored in SharePoint. Teams
Absolutely.
evolved from SharePoint. So whatever your disaster recovery backup plan is for SharePoint is what determines your disaster recovery. I just tell most of my clients you don't have to worry about it. That's why you buy Office 365.
And as an IT company, we do, like Microsoft 365 does have redundancy. And then Shane, what would you be recommending for your customers if they had SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365?
Yeah, we use Backupify, which is a product through Datto.
Okay.
There's several out there, but that was a good one. And Datto had acquired them several years ago. It's been a good addition to our arsenal. What do you guys use, Tom? Tahir.
So we use one very similar. It's called Dropsuite. So that's what we recommend for all of our customers. The reason we started recommending it is actually a customer came on, and the year before their SharePoint had actually been encrypted, not when we were managing it, but beforehand. And it was kind of new to us. So we started doing more research, and sure enough, even with the redundancy, a SharePoint site can get encrypted. And if you have all of your files, or even some of your files in SharePoint, it's super important that you have another third-party backup of that. So we do recommend Dropsuite. The price point on it's really not bad at all. I think it's like $3 a user. So for that extra insurance, we do recommend it. But not everyone has it. It's just one of those things, people that are like solely in SharePoint, like we are solely in SharePoint for the most part for files. So we have another backup just in case. So that's what
And
we
it's
recommend.
nice. Those products back up not only Teams, SharePoint, but it does OneDrive, email, contacts, calendar events. So it's really a good product.
Yeah, the other thing I tell people, it's not just a backup, it's a quasi archive, right? So even if like an email is deleted, it's still in the backup. So if you're like, oh wait, I needed that. So yeah, that's what we would say there. Is there any other questions for Tom? Tom, that was a fantastic presentation. I really appreciate it a lot.
Thanks.
Yes, I do have a question in regarding to the live event. Is it inviting just the same thing as the GoToMeeting without having to, and they can still access using the link, just like with the non team licensed users? Or
So I heard a couple of questions. I mean, the way you invite people is pretty much the same way. You put in their, if it's public, you don't have to invite them, but if it's private, you have to have their, their email address or some qualified name for that user. Then I heard you say license, and I don't know the licensing, but I'm pretty sure you can have 1 billion people join and it doesn't cost you any more or less, but I'm not the expert on the licensing.
Let me rephrase that question, sorry. Let's say if I send it, you know how we send a meeting with Teams to non-team users, right? They just have an email. Is that works the same way with live?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you are doing an event where you have to specify the attendees, if it's, well, it doesn't really matter. Even if it's a public event, you're going to send them a link. So you're probably going to advertise it on your website or through your social media platforms or something like that. You're going to advertise the invitation to the live event, and people would just click on it like you would Dave Matthews Band or Today's Show or whatever. I like Dave Matthews.
Great question.
Thank you.
Awesome, great question.
I know oh, go ahead, Shane.
Looks like Chelsea wanted to, or did we answer Chelsea's question? Looks like she had her hand was raised. Or
Chelsea, did you have another?
Sorry, I forgot to lower it.
oh, okay.
Demands attention.
Heather, here we go. Heather has another question. Oh, did y'all see Heather? Heather had a question there for a second. It disappeared. Oh, are you able to message during the presentation like you can in Zoom? Also, how do you delete a chat?
So I think there are two different modules going on in that question. So live meeting or the live event allows you to specify whether people can chat. I mean, you have the control over all of those kinds of things in the live event. And so those are settings that the administrator gets set up. And when you're talking about a chat, like if I don't want to see this chat with Alex, you can basically mute it or hide it. Guess what? You don't get to delete this stuff. It's company property. Anything you talk about is company property. So you can hide it and those kinds of things. And then IT determines archive and how long it's stored and that kind of stuff. But it's just like your email. It's not private anymore. So don't assume.
Just like Facebook too, right? You've used the Facebook reference a few times. That's why I've deleted
I've had to
mine.
delete it so many
Or I'm
times.
getting close to anyway.
Yeah.
But being in marketing, I can't do it yet. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, you're right.
my boss is looking over my shoulder. Yep, we're in the middle of a webinar. Boss/father-in-law.
So that's not a background, I can tell you.
Yeah. Actually, I added that into the video just to trick people.
Nice.
I saw one video of a guy who made a recording of himself walking up and handing himself coffee. So he drops it right out of frame, and then the guy picks up the coffee and drinks it. It's
That's really
genius.
sweet.
I was like, I can't
Nice.
believe
Let's do a webinar on that. I like that.
Yeah. So actually, one of the ones we're considering doing is video production, like how to make easy video production for marketing. But anyway, so I don't see any other questions. So I guess I'll go ahead and wrap up at this point. A quick thing I want to touch on. Like I mentioned, this is a joint venture between Global Quest, Data Magic, Alltech Services, and then we bring on a Microsoft specialist like Tom to actually do the presentation. The next one coming up is SharePoint Part 1. So whether you're using SharePoint or not, I highly, highly, highly recommend coming to Part 1 or sending someone to come to Part 1. You have an IT company that supports you. However, it's still important for you to understand how you can use SharePoint to optimize your business. We use it extensively here. We love SharePoint. When I'm on site, I make changes to a document. When I get back into the office, all the changes are there. Everyone can see it. So SharePoint is super, super, super important. And as Tom mentioned, Teams is actually the foundation of Teams is SharePoint. So Part 1 is going to be very easy to understand, just the basics of SharePoint. Make sure you attend that. And then there's also going to be SharePoint Training Part 2, which dives a little deeper into some of the apps you can integrate with SharePoint, design of SharePoint, which again, you would just have your IT company do, but at least you'll understand the availability and opportunity within SharePoint. So please make sure you attend one or two of those or send someone to attend one or two of those. It's going to be a live event, so it's going to be a little different than this one. And that one is November 11th, so it's coming up quick. And then also the next one, Part 2, is November 18th. After that, one of the most important topics that we got from the customer survey is actually Excel. People really want to learn more about Excel. We did Excel classes in the past and it completely sold out. Well, sold out. They were free, but we hit maximum capacity. So with the Teams webinar, the live, like Tom was mentioning, now there is no capacity. We can have as many people join as we need. So we're going to be redoing that Excel training. So please join those. It's going to be a great time. If you have questions after this, you can always email Data Magic if you're in the Texas area, Global Quest if you're in the Buffalo area, and of course, if you're in Florida and we invited you, you can email me directly. So Molly asked that question. So thank you all so much. Shane, Mike, Tom, did y'all want to say anything before we conclude?
I'd just like to say the recording will be sent out to everybody that registered, so just be on the lookout for that. And we're getting some great suggestions for different topics, which is wonderful because we, are always beating our brains trying to find out what would be good and something that people could learn from. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Shelley, for those suggestions.
We also got some new ones coming in 2021. We're looking to do Outlook and browsers, Chrome, Firefox, and Edge, hopefully. So mid-January, early February on those also. And Tom, thank you. Great job.
And hey, guys, thank you so much for your participation. It was awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Bye,
That was
everybody.
great.
Have a great day
Good
at
time.
work.